On to the next article from this week that I read that was very interesting, and I'm not really sure how to feel about. Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be implementing a classic mode, which means, in all intents and purposes, for those people who have no idea what any of that means, that this game, Final Fantasy VII, which is incredibly popular in gaming culture for years, obviously it's hailed as one of the most influential games of all time, one of the most epic games of all time, blah, blah, blah. You know, you hear that about a lot of different games. This one, old, looks bad now. I can't even stand to look at the old one. I didn't play it growing up, so I didn't have any attachment to it as a young person. Now that I'm older, I was able to dive into the original game, and I do enjoy the mechanics, the gameplay, even the storytelling is great. It's still an awesome, wonderful game, but it does not look good at all. So they're remaking it, and in fact, they're rehauling it in more ways than one. And one of the biggest ways that they begin to change Final Fantasy VII as they've begun to bring it into 2020, I guess, is when it's going to come out, is their gameplay, specifically the battle system. So in JRPGs, it's a big deal, the kind of battle system that you put into it. And there are a whole lot of different kinds that you can implement. They, in the original, implemented a more traditional turn-based battle system, which means that you take your turn, you're able to manage your inventory, pick out what you're going to do, strategize. It's more of a board game at that point in a way, or like a game of chess, or just a game of strategy. And those kinds of games are prolific, they're fantastic, and they can be a lot of fun. They've begun to make Final Fantasy VII not like a turn-based, but instead more like an active action game where you can begin actively putting together moves. Of course, they still have elements of JRPG in there, but interestingly enough, it was a really unique move, and I thought that it was going to pay off because it was going to give almost a different experience to the game. But now they're saying that they're going to add the original version in, or the original kind of gameplay in anyway, which I say, okay, cool, great. But I could see the issue that a lot of people had, and the things that I was seeing, most people had the issue of just, why did you take it out in the first place? Why did you try to switch it out? Why are you going back on your word now? Why didn't you stick to your guns, you know? For me, I think, okay, cool, more options. But at the same time, it is kind of weird the way they handled it. And I'm curious to see if it's not going to do anything to the game itself. More options is never bad. Nobody should really be mad about that. But in any case, it is a curious thing, and I am interested to see what more of the game is developed, what other parts of it are preserved or changed, and what we get with the final product. GameStop, speaking of products, is revamping